Thank you, State Senator Jim Lemke. Wow. We are so lucky to have somebody as passionate as Jim on our side. He's been there every step of the way. And I have to tell you, just as a measure of dedication to his service, before we move on with the program, I'd like to ask all of you, as you say your prayers tonight, to also pray for Jim Lemke's family. Jim spent the latter part of this afternoon at the bedside of his father-in-law, who unfortunately passed away today. And Jim was with him. God bless you, brother, and our prayers are with you always. You and your family. I got to tell you, if Jim Lemke is Albert Pujols, we have a Matt Holliday here too. Yes, indeed. And I first met Brian Nieves because he called the show one day. Here's a guy who is hungry as a servant to his community. And he didn't have somebody calling on his behalf, or didn't send out this news release, or just kind of like, come and get me if you want me, that kind of thing that we often see in the media. This guy's not laying back. And it was really a true measure of Brian's heart. I was very, very impressed by that, because here's a guy who wanted to pop on the air and just state his piece, and I, of course, welcome anybody to do so. But it was really interesting that here's a person who is in the political world who is not taking anything for granted, kind of like Jim, and kind of like the way our representatives should be. And so I'm pleased and proud to say that Brian Nieves is a friend of mine, but I'm very proud to introduce him tonight as a man who ultimately might be your next state senator. State Representative Brian Nieves. Oh my. You people fire me up. That's what I gotta tell you. You fire me up. You just make me want to go to the Capitol and just take ground every day. I mean, listen, let me tell you something. 2 years ago, actually, I was so glad when Jamie referred to Jim Lemke as the elder statesman, because Jim is a little bit older than me, and I tease him about that. We came into the House together almost 8 years ago, and of course he ascended, or what we might say when we tease each other, descended to the Senate. And so Jim and I have been together for almost 8 years. We've actually been roommates. We've rented little rat hole apartments in Jeff City to share together. You know, I mean, the kind of places that when our wives come to visit us, they don't really want to touch anything in there, you know. And I mean, that's where Jim and we are true fiscal conservatives, you know. I mean, the place that we most recently rented was, I mean, we can't even tell you about it. I guarantee it was not up to code. So we could never invite the fire marshal over to our apartment. But listen, folks, I got to tell you, about maybe 2.5 years ago, I had literally, my wife and we had been talking about whether or not I was going to continue in politics. And I can tell you, about 2.5 years ago, the energy was beginning to wane just a little bit. Because I felt how a lot of you, I bet you there are a lot of you, if you think about it, maybe 5 years ago, how many of you would say, by a raise of hands, how many of you would say 5 years ago, you would sit and listen to the radio or watch the television and want to knock the radio off the counter or kick the television, thinking, am I the only one that still thinks the right way? How many of you felt that way 5 years ago? All right, now, take a look around, folks. Take a look around. I don't know how to judge crowds all that accurately. Now, the media would say that there's about 25 of us here tonight, but it looks to me that there's about 1,000 Patriots in this facility on a Thursday night in Washington, Missouri. You are not alone. You're not the only one who thinks the way we think. And so listen, after a while, I mean, I got to tell you, I was getting a little tired. I was getting a little tired of fighting the fight and feeling like that Jim and people like Jim